All right, so you want to understand one of the most complex sagas ever written? Well, to do that, you have to start not with a hero, but with a number.
So here's how we're going to break this all down. We're going to start with Green's tragic, seemingly endless cycle. Then we'll meet Arrow, the one person who could shatter it all. After that, we'll dive into the heavy burden his actions placed on the next generation before we see the universe-altering event that changed everything. And finally, we'll take a look at the absolutely massive cast of characters left in its wake. First up, we need to talk about our main protagonist, Green, and this cosmic loop he was trapped in. A loop he just could not escape.
And that brings us right back to our number 9. That's the number of times Green, the hero of this whole story, had to die before reality itself was literally forced to change course. I mean, just look at this timeline. A clear and honestly brutal pattern just jumps right out at you. It all kicks off with his very first death, a huge betrayal that actually unlocked his green magic. But instead of giving him power, it trapped him. He was stuck in this tragic loop of rebirth and death, manipulated over and over again by the god Zeus. For ages, this was just the way things were, the flawed status quo of the entire universe.
But here's the thing about cycles. No matter how endless they seem, they can always be broken. And in this story, the one to finally do it is a kid named Arrow.
To really get the incredible stakes here, you have to see where Arrow came from. He was born into the timeline on the left, a complete dystopia where Zeus had already won and all our heroes were long gone. So, at just 12 years old, he makes this desperate jump through time to the main timeline on the right. Now, that world is in crisis for sure, but it still had a fighting chance.
But just showing up, that wasn't enough. The real trigger, the crucial point that changed the game, was the death of Little Green. That loss was so devastating that it pushed Arrow and his brothers to stop just watching from the sidelines and start actively breaking the timeline, and that created consequences nobody could have possibly seen coming.
And you know, breaking time isn't a clean fix. It had these massive, unforeseen consequences. So now we're going to see how the next generation had to live with the fallout of that fractured reality. We're going to focus on two key figures, Dark Arrow and Super. Dark Arrow's story, man, it becomes a story of obsession. He's just relentlessly driven by this need to fix what's broken. But the very tool he uses to do it, time travel, it ends up costing him so much, both physically and personally. Super's journey, on the other hand, is a direct result of all this escalating chaos. He suffers this devastating injury that forces him to look inward. He starts using that same cosmic power, green magic, not as a weapon, but as a tool for healing and for defense. It fundamentally changes who he is. So what happens when you've got heroes messing with time, realities are fracturing all over the place, and cosmic wars are just raging? Well, it all builds to a climax so huge, it's not just world-ending, it's universe remaking. The culmination of all this chaos was this one final, desperate war against a multiversal threat called the Darkness, and it ended with the gods making the ultimate sacrifice. But that sacrifice didn't just save reality, it completely and utterly remade it. The result wasn't some restored, clean timeline. No way. Instead, the universe, as the source material puts it, now combines every multiversal version of the characters into one great giant world. Just try to wrap your head around that. A single unified reality holding every single possibility. And that brings us to the final part of our story and the answer to a really critical question. Just how big did this new world actually become? So just think about that for a second. When you fuse countless timelines together, you are left with a truly staggering number of characters all living together in one single universe. The source material lists over 38 distinct key figures, and that's just the named ones. We're talking core family members like Green and his kids, cosmic entities like the god known as him, multiversal conquerors, forgotten sons, and that's not even counting the various other children and countless allies. It is an absolutely stunning scale, and it was all born from one hero's tragic cycle of death and another's flat-out refusal to accept fate. Which really raises the ultimate question. In a universe like this, is a story ever truly over, or is it all just beginning again?